Okay, something absolutely incredible just happened in Japan's economy. The final numbers for 2025 are in, and let me tell you, when it comes to tourism, the story isn't about recovery anymore. No, we've blasted past that. We're talking about a whole new level.
In fact, what we're looking at is a full-blown boom that hasn't just beaten old records, it has completely shattered them. The scale of this is, well, it's kind of hard to overstate, but the numbers themselves, they tell a pretty dramatic story.
Okay, let's just get right into it. The total amount spent by foreign tourists in Japan for the whole year of 2025 was a staggering 9.46 trillion yen. To give you an idea of how huge that is, that's more than the entire economy of some countries. It's just a massive wave of cash that is fundamentally reshaping Japan's economy. And to be crystal clear, this isn't just a good year. This is the best year ever for Japanese tourism, blowing past any pre-pandemic numbers we used to think were impressive. So the big question is, where is all this money actually coming from? All right, let's start by following the money. We're going to look at the big spenders, the countries that are pouring the most money in total into Japan. So if we zoom in on the last few months of 2025, you can see that visitors from China, the US, and Taiwan were the top three. And, that kind of makes sense, right? Proximity, strong economies, a lot of people are coming from these places. Here, volume is really the name of the game. But what's really fascinating is how this plays out over the full year. And yep, when you look at the entire year, the trend basically holds. It's Japan's neighbors in Asia, along with the United States, that are the clear engine behind this boom in terms of total spending. But it's not just about the total amount. It's about how that money is being spent. So we know who's spending the money, but what are they spending it on? Is it still the classic image of tourists flocking to Ginza, filling up suitcases with electronics and luxury brands, or is something else catching their attention? Well, this chart reveals a pretty major shift in what tourists are doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, Japan is still a shopper's paradise. But look at this. The biggest slice of the pie, almost 38%, is now going to accommodation. That tells us that tourists are really starting to value the experience of being in Japan, not just the things they can buy. This trend, this move towards experience spending, is a complete game changer. It means that unique hotels, incredible food, and memorable tours are becoming just as important, if not more important, than the big department stores. But believe it or not, that's not even the biggest surprise in the data. Okay, this is where the story gets really, really interesting. So far, we've looked at the total amount of money spent by each country. But what happens if we flip the script and look at how much the average tourist from each country spends? So who do you think it is? Who spends the most per person? The tourists coming for a big shopping spree? The American families doing a whirlwind tour? Well, the answer is probably not who you'd expect. Get this, the biggest individual spenders are actually from down under. Australian tourists, on average, are dropping a whopping 446,000 yen each during their trip. And they're not alone. Right behind them are visitors from Spain and the UK. It's a completely different list, a totally different story from the total spending numbers. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. You've got these two sides to Japan's tourism boom. On one hand, you have the incredible volume of tourists from Asia driving up those huge overall numbers. And on the other hand, you have these high-spending tourists from places like Europe and Australia who are clearly looking for a more premium, high-value experience. This creates both huge opportunities and, honestly, some new challenges. So, let's put all the pieces together. What does all of this actually mean for the future of tourism in Japan? Let's break down the key takeaways from this unbelievable year. So, in a nutshell, 2025 was historic. The boom is being powered by two different engines, right? You've got high-volume tourism from Asia and this high-value tourism from the West. And at the very heart of it all is this growing global demand for unique, authentic Japanese experiences. The big takeaway here is pretty clear. Japan's tourism industry is getting way more sophisticated. It's not just about getting as many people through the door as possible anymore. Now it's about really understanding all these different types of visitors and giving them what they're looking for. And this brings us to the trillion yen question, doesn't it? Can Japan have its cake and eat it too? How can it keep welcoming this massive number of tourists while also protecting the unique culture and authentic experiences that make it so special in the first place? The answer to that is going to define the future of tourism here.